The story begins with a king and queen ruling over a kingdom called Long Trellis. Initially, everything seems fine in their lives. However, we soon learn that the queen is facing a rare medical condition that prevents her from having children. This makes the queen constantly unhappy. Trying to help her, the king calls upon the most skilled doctors and healers from all over the land. Unfortunately, none of them can figure out what's wrong with her. Despite their efforts, the king is determined to lift his queen's spirits. One day, he arranges for some entertainers from a circus to perform at the palace. But when the queen sees one of the performers pregnant, she becomes deeply upset and starts breaking things in her room. Discovering her distress, the king promises to do whatever it takes to solve her problem. In the dead of night, a mysterious necromancer arrives, claiming he can help the queen conceive. Though skeptical, the king listens as the necromancer insists that with enough dedication, the queen can have a child. The king vows to do whatever it takes, even if it means pushing himself to the limit. The sorcerer claims he's got loads of experience and knows tons about nature. He goes on about how nature needs to stay balanced, and if the king wants something, he's gotta give something up too. Even though his ideas are pretty out there, the king and queen are totally on board. So, the sorcerer starts laying out the plan. The king has to go nab a sea monster, and its heart will cure the queen's sickness. Then, some pure, unmarried gal has to prepare it, and the queen's gotta eat it. Supposedly, that'll get her knocked up. The king hears all this and jumps at the chance to bag the sea monster. Next day, he's off on his quest. He tracks down the beast in a river and sneaks up on it while it's snoozing. After a tough fight, he manages to take it down, but he's badly hurt. He doesn't make it, but before he goes, he grabs the monster's heart. The queen heads back to the castle, hiding the heart under a cloth. They find a maid who fits the bill, unmarried and pure, and she's put in charge of prepping the heart. While she's cooking, she feels some weird stuff and suddenly finds herself expecting. Soon enough, the queen eats the heart, and bam, she's pregnant. Next thing you know, both the maid and the queen pop out babies at the same time. Both boys appear to be of similar age. The queen's son goes by the name Elias, while the maid's son is called Jonah. Time skips ahead 16 years, and the kids are now grown-ups. The queen finds happiness in her life alongside her son Elias, believing she's been blessed with a second chance. But these two kids, born on the same day and resembling twins, are no ordinary children. Their white hair marks them as linked to a sea monster. Despite this, they share a deep bond and consider each other close friends. However, the queen disapproves of their friendship. She tells Elias, as a prince, he can't be friends with Jonah, the maid's son. Elias, though, defies his mother and continues to meet Jonah. It's later revealed that the kids can breathe underwater in a unique way. In another scene, the queen warns the maid that unless she stops Elias from seeing Jonah, they'll be kicked out of the kingdom. But they pay no heed and keep meeting secretly. Things escalate when Jonah wears Elias's clothes one day and goes to see the queen. When she learns the truth, she decides to banish Jonah. Elias tries to intervene but fails. Jonah then does something unexpected. He cuts a tree with his knife, and water gushes out. He tells Elias that as long as the water remains clear, he's safe, but if it turns red, his life is in danger. With those words, he walks away. Elias checks the water regularly, and one day, it turns red, signaling trouble. To track down Jonah, he sneaks out of the kingdom without telling his mom. After a lengthy search, Elias eventually locates Jonah's house. There, he discovers that Jonah has tied the knot with a young lady. People recognize him as Jonah because they look alike. Elias then learns that Jonah ventured into the woods 5 days ago and hasn't returned. So, Elias sets out to find him while his mom grows increasingly worried. With no other choice, she visits the necromancer again, who demands the same thing: a life must be sacrificed for Jonah's return. Without hesitation, the queen agrees. Meanwhile, Jonah is spotted injured in a cave. A flying creature attacks him. Upon hearing his cries, Elias rushes to his aid and slays the creature. Unbeknownst to Elias, the creature is actually his mother, fulfilling the agreed-upon exchange, life for life. In the final scene of the first tale, Elias assumes the throne, and the story concludes. Then, the second story unfolds, focusing on the king and two elderly ladies, Ima and Dora. The king is a lecherous man, always surrounded by women and perpetually drunk, yet he hasn't found his queen. Despite this, he has the power and wealth to wed anyone he fancies. Enter two elderly sisters, Dora and Ima, who live near the palace. Dora is cunning and selfish, while Ima is honest. They rarely venture out and remain unmarried, destined to die alone. However, their voices sound remarkably youthful and pleasant. One morning, the king hears Dora singing and is immediately captivated. He decides to meet her. When he arrives at their door, the sisters panic, fearing the king's reaction to their appearance. After some thought, they devise a plan, and Dora asks the king to return in a week. In the following scene, the sisters put in a lot of effort to rejuvenate their hands and make them look youthful and attractive. Dora tries covering her hands with herbs, but they still resemble those of an older person. On the contrary, Ima has been sucking on her fingers for days, and as a result, they look quite fresh and youthful today. A week goes by, and it's the day of the king's visit. When the king arrives, Dora presents Ima's hand instead of her own. Now, the king is overwhelmed with emotions and believes he has found his true love. However, the sisters grow more anxious because if the king discovers their deception, he will likely punish them severely. After much deliberation, Dora suggests a condition: she will only sleep with the king if it's pitch dark, and the king agrees. In the next scene, Ima starts applying glue to tighten Dora's body so that it feels like that of a young girl. At midnight, a temple guard arrives to escort Dora while the palace is enveloped in darkness. The king spends the night with Dora, but the next morning, he realizes he has been with an old and unattractive woman. Furious, he orders his guards to throw Dora out of the window. Thankfully, she survives the fall. In the jungle, Dora encounters magic as a witch appears and discovers her. Using her powers, the witch transforms Dora into a stunning young lady with flowing hair. The following day, the king goes hunting in the jungle and instantly falls in love with the young Dora. He brings her back to the castle and decides to marry her, making her the queen. Dora is bewildered by her transformation into a young girl but remembers her sister Ima. She invites Ima to her wedding, though Ima still can't believe Dora's new appearance. When Emma asks Dora how she got young, Dora sarcastically says she shed her old skin. But Emma believes it and goes to a blacksmith to do the same in exchange for a necklace. The blacksmith seems even dumber than Emma. He takes her to the woods, ties her to a tree, and strips off all her skin. Next, Emma comes back to the castle weak and dies soon after. Meanwhile, the magic that made Dora young fades, and she starts aging again. Realizing this, she flees the castle. Dora ends up old again, and the story shifts to a king. This king, odd as can be, lost his queen ages ago. He's got a daughter, Violet, but he's never really cared for her. One day, the king finds a blood-sucking bug on his hand but lets it feed instead of killing it. He keeps it as a pet, letting it drink his blood every day until it becomes enormous. Meanwhile, Violet, hoping for love, gets ignored by her king dad, who's too busy with his bug. But when the bug gets sick and dies, everything changes. The king was deeply saddened by this, so he removes the skin of the parasite and tells his daughter it's time for her to find a husband. He plans to organize a contest, and the winner will marry her. Violet feels a mix of joy and disappointment because she wanted to choose her own partner. Despite her feelings, she agrees to her father's plan. The news about the competition spreads across the kingdom. The king exhibits the parasite's skin, declaring that whoever guesses the insect's name correctly will win. Many attempt but fail as the insect has never grown so large. Suddenly, a strange ogre arrives, wanting to join the contest. The king reluctantly agrees. The ogre smells the skin and gives the correct answer, leaving Violet devastated. In distress, Violet tries to end her life, but the king stops her, reminding her of his promise. With no other option, Violet reluctantly accepts. In the following scene, the ogre takes Violet to the mountains where she weeps for days. One day, while he's out hunting, she spots another woman on a nearby hill. She pleads for assistance and tells her the whole situation. The other woman feels for her and vows to come help the next day. With her family, she arrives at the scene to rescue Violet. As they're crossing, the ogre shows up, but they manage to cut the rope, causing him to plummet. After some time, the ogre discovers the family and systematically kills them. He then pursues Violet into a cavern and starts embracing her. Violet feigns concern, but as soon as he's distracted, she dispatches him with a knife. In the following scene, Violet brings the ogre's severed head back to the palace and places it before everyone. Through tears, she declares, "This is the husband you approved," deeply affecting the king, who collapses to his knees. In the end, Violet ascends to the throne as the queen of the realm. Please turn on alerts, like, and subscribe for more videos similar to this one. Thank you for watching.